Hi, my name is Will and I run a business specialising in the sourcing, restoring and selling of modern classic and retro cars. And in these tutorial videos, I'm going to be using my years of experience in the trade to take you through some of the secrets, some of the pitfalls and some of the essentials of buying, of restoring, of maintaining and of selling a car for yourself. So today I'm actually going to take you through a little how-to on how to buy a second-hand car. And I'm not talking about something like this, it's only a couple of months old. I'm talking about something more like this, which is pretty old. So anything in that kind of 10 to 25-year-old bracket, that's the kind of area we're going to be looking at today. But I'll show you what to look out for, who's the best kind of people to buy from, and I'll teach you how to check out your car and to find out information about it so that you go armed with the right knowledge when you go looking at it. So let's start. Now if you're a car enthusiast or you buy a lot of cars, then this is going to seem very self-explanatory, very easy to you. But this video is something to help those who maybe don't buy a car very often or not sure what to do or don't have somebody to help them. Really, I hope that those kind of people that are watching this find this useful, and those that are maybe watching this with a bit more experience, you'll pick up on some little tip that you've forgotten about or didn't know already. Rather than looking for just any car available at all, because there's thousands out there, you need to set a few criteria that you're going to work with. So generally what people will first start with is something like a budget. Now it just so happens that a friend of mine has been in touch with me and said that they're looking for a new car. So what we can do is we can use that real life instance to help us to work through this tutorial, and therefore we'll pick up anything that we need to as we're going through it for real. In this particular example, we're looking for a car that falls into a budget of maybe around 1,800 to a bit over £2,000. There are many criteria that you want to go through. You have to choose whether you want a petrol or a diesel engine. Now there's benefits and disadvantages to both, which maybe we'll go through in a later tutorial, but basically if you're doing low mileages or you're doing all around town, you want to stick with petrol generally, and for higher mileages or if economy is a real factor, then you maybe want to stick with something diesel. So we'll work through now at this. We're looking for a 5-door hatchback car. We're looking for something low insurance. We don't need to stick to very, very low, but sometimes low insurance group is a bigger priority. Something in around 1.4 to 1.6, maybe 1.8. We're starting to build up a few criteria then. Most people's first criteria is the budget. That's the most important one, but there is other factors to consider there, as you've seen. Don't just pick a criteria of it has to be red or it has to have cruise control or something like that, because you could really limit your choice. Try to work through what's the most important. So if the most important thing is to you that it has 7 seats, then you start from there. Then your budget becomes the second priority, and then you work after that what things you'd like to get in the car. Something that affects people too is maybe you need it to be an automatic. Maybe your license doesn't allow you to drive a manual, or you need it for comfort or disability, then that becomes a priority too. Again, in this particular example, we would like auto, but it's not a necessity, so that's a preference. The next step is to then look at some of the for sale adverts and use some of the for sale websites, trying to find a car and use the budget to see what's available that suits those other criteria. But because you have those criteria now written down, then you can keep yourself focused and look at the cars that are going to suit. So when you're looking for a car for sale, you need to know where to look. Most car advertising is done online now. Here in the UK or in Ireland, we're in Northern Ireland, so we get both. You have Auto Trader, you have Gumtree, you have used cars NI for sale here in Northern Ireland, and in Southern Ireland you have Dundee and you have adverts.ie, and there are other sites. In America you have Craigslist, and you always have eBay, and those websites are a great start for looking up, at least if nothing else, to be able to find what's available and what's out there, and it'll give you an idea of how common or uncommon a car is. It's always a good idea to try and figure out which cars are actually available in your area. So say here in Northern Ireland there's not many Chrysler dealers, so if you were looking for a Chrysler, you would know that it could be quite hard to find. You might need to travel further afield to try and find something like that. use these websites to try and find out what the general pricing, what the market value is of these cars at the minute, and then from there you'll be able to work out what's actually available in your budget and what's going to suit. So I've been through here and I've found maybe 5 or 6 different cars, actually nearly 10 cars that would be suitable. And what I'll do now is check up on those cars using some of the review websites, Honest John for example, or Auto Trader I think also do some of that, and there's guides and there's user reviews out there, and if you again do a little bit of searching, then you can find out, are these cars reliable or not. And I've already discounted a couple of cars on the fact that they're very unreliable. They would suit otherwise they're perfect for what we're looking for, but they're actually unreliable, or they have something else wrong with them. And there's a few cars that I had in mind that I've searched and are too rare or too pricey. And a great way to find cars or to find reviews on cars, and I would be amiss to leave this out, is owner forums online. They can be a great resource for finding out information, for finding out common failures, for finding out where the best places are to find these cars for sale are. Now that I've done that, and now that I've refined the list a little bit, then we can look at it in more detail and look at the cars that we have here, these 10 or so cars, and look at what's the preference, what would suit the criteria best, and then those are the cars that then we'll then start trying to look at and find actual good examples for sale locally. Yeah, it is very low mileage and not bad price wise, but it'd be quite small, so it would be too small and too low, yeah. Otherwise it wouldn't be too bad, but it's a good price too, but no, it's not the right one. Alright, yeah, you do, see there. So I've already been in touch with some acquaintances and some friends of mine in the trade, and spoken about what's available. We've come up with a list of things. I've printed out a list of cars that are a possibility, and then we've gone through them. Discounted some on the basis of being too large, some on the basis of being too hard to run, too high an insurance group, or too expensive in terms of consumption. So we're left with a choice of about 3 or 4 cars, which is good. So that means then now we can focus on these cars instead of looking for every car that is out there. We can look now just for these specific cars. It helps you to focus and to find what you're really after, and then we're not looking at things that aren't going to be suitable. So we can now go and look at these cars. If you're after an enthusiast car, if you're after something very specific, then you won't have a choice of cars. You'll be after one car in particular, and you might only have 2 or 3 of those to go and look at. That's a completely different scenario, completely different ball game. But in this particular instance, we're looking for a car to suit a set of criteria, and what we've done is narrowed it down to the criteria that's most important and the cars that fulfill that best. So we have these choices. So what I'll now do is look for adverts for those, use the usual for sale sites online, as well as ringing around some of the dealers that are likely to have these kind of cars. And also, because I'm in the trade, I'll use some of my contacts and see if any of them know of something like this that's available or coming up. And that's a very good way to do it if you have somebody you know in the trade, because then you can beat the usual markets. You can get to a car and you can see it before it reaches market, which is always very good, because the best cars, the cars that are really good, don't stay for sale very long. So if you can find them before they make it to market, then you're in for a better chance of finding something really good. Now, next step, we've identified what we're looking for, so now we want to try and find good examples of some of those cars for sale. The first step, of course, is to look up on the websites and the different things that I have mentioned before. But also what you want to do is get out your phone. Now, you probably have a newer phone than me, but they all do the same thing. Firstly, get on to Facebook and stick up a post there, because you never know if somebody that you have as an acquaintance or some distant relative has a car for sale, or know somebody, people that you know other people, and there might be possibly someone out there that is selling a car. Or maybe if you're in a gym club, or if you have a church group, or if you or in some other kind of community group, then ask around in that group as well, because if you don't know, maybe they have a family member or a friend who's selling a car, and that's a great way to find a car. Also, if you happen to know of anybody in the trade, then that's a great avenue to explore. If you know anybody that is even a tyre fitter or does a little bit of valeting or something like that, anything remotely connected to the car trade, then they might not have something for sale themselves, but they might have a customer who's selling a car, or they might have other friends in the trade that might be able to find you something or know of something coming up. Now that's a great way again to find something that hasn't yet made the market, or a great way through word of mouth to find something becoming available, you know. And remember, because you've already made the criteria, you can tell them the kind of thing that you're after, or say you're after this model or this model, rather than people suggesting things to you that aren't suitable, so that people know what you're actually after, and so that then if they know of a customer who's selling a car but it's not suitable, you'll not get inundated with this is for sale and this is for sale. If you don't know anybody in the trade, then make a friend in the trade, or find someone like me who's willing to do a little bit of legwork for you, to use their resources and their contacts to help you find a car. There are people in the trade who might be willing to help as well. I mean, I've done this several times for people that I know, and some people even that I don't know. And if you're local, if you're nearby in Northern Ireland and you're struggling to find something, I mean, don't be afraid to contact me, and I'll do my very best to help you find something. But ask around your friends and your acquaintances in the area that you're at, because there might be some other tradesperson who is doing something similar and might be willing to help. Now just waiting for my friends to arrive, and then we're going looking at what hopefully might be the car. So we used the criteria that was set, and then I asked around. So we ended up going to look at a 2010 car. So I found one version, one example in the trade that was about a quarter of the price that it should be, but it was a wee bit damaged, which I think is the reason why. And we were going to go look at that, but that has been snapped up. So, but we're pretty sure this is the right car. My friend's been to see a couple of the other cars that I suggested to her. She's gone to see examples of them and found out one was uncomfortable, and there's another one that was comfortable. It suited her very well, but I don't like them because they're very unreliable. So I'm trying to persuade her not to buy one of those. So what I found, what I think is going to be one of the best possibilities, I found a very good one for sale, and so this evening we're going to go and have a look at that. While we're talking about dealers, many people believe all dealers are con artists and crooks.
Alright, government.
They don't all look like the characters that we imagine, but definitely don't buy from this guy. Dealers are generally honest, and it's really easy to research a dealer's reputation. Usually with a dealer you get a guarantee as well, which you don't get with private sales. So if a dealer has a car you want and it's within the budget that you can afford, then there's no reason really not to buy from a reputable dealer. So you can either buy a car from a dealer or from somebody private. This is only an example, but if you come to a dealer and you're looking at a car and it's not even washed, you know, they don't really care very much about it. Wear something you don't mind getting down the ground, because if you're going to look at an old car that's 10 or 12 or so years old, then you might need to get down on the ground and check out the sills for rust and check out the brake lines, and you don't want to be doing that in some nice clothes. If you don't know what you're looking at, if you don't know your way around a car, if you have a buddy that knows their way around a car, get them to come and have a look at it. They can check the engine oil for you, they can check the tyres, you know, they know what they're looking for. But this gives you an idea of what to look out for. Come to look at this car by a private seller instead. Sometimes with private cars you'll get them for a little bit cheaper than what you would from a dealer, but then sometimes you have more faults to deal with, because a dealer would always have rectified most of the major faults with the car. We can look around this, I can see like the wheels would need refurbished because they're a bit curved. You know, when you're buying a car of this kind of age that we're talking about, you do need to expect the wear and tear. Especially once the miles get a bit higher and you go past 100,000 miles maybe. We'll just have a look around the car again, looking for the same kind of stuff, looking what way it drives, looking for corrosion around sort of the wings and underneath the sills, and looking at the exhaust as well, because exhausts obviously take a lot of abuse and sometimes they go bad. And then after that, just see what way it drives. We'll need to take this thing for a test drive and see if it's a good car. And don't forget to check your service history as well. Always ask the seller if they have the service history, because sometimes they keep it inside instead of keeping it in the car, and they might forget about it. So it's always worth taking a look at that, and you can gauge how well this car has been looked after. I know it's tempting to just jump into a car and just fly off, but make sure you're comfortable, make sure the seat's set right before going on a test drive, because the last thing you want to do is end up crashing somebody else's car before you've even bought it. That's not the right way to start off. So there's a couple of tests that you can do. Obviously you want to make sure all the electrics work. That's easy done. There's a test here we'll do before we go out onto the main road. Okay, that is to put the car in gear. This is counterintuitive. Pull the handbrake up and then start to let the clutch up. Do you feel that? The car's not moving, which means the handbrake is good. If it was bad, the car would start moving and it would drive through the handbrake. Like I said, it's counterintuitive. It's the quickest way to test the handbrake. The handbrake can be a significant issue in some cars, especially we're looking at a BMW, and handbrakes are usually an issue with them. Don't be afraid to, once you get a nice empty bit of road, just to do that with the steering wheel and make sure the car moves properly. And you're listening out as well for any bangs, any clunks. Get up to speed, use all the gears. If it's an automatic, the same thing as put it into Tiptronic or whatever it has and go through them as well. Just make sure everything's working, because now's your chance to find out what works and what doesn't. You don't want to find that out after you've bought it and you have no money left in the pot. Get the engine up to temperature, make sure it gets fully warm. You don't want it to drive around cold. If you can, see the car when the engine hasn't been warmed up already. You don't want to go and buy a car that the seller has warmed up for you already and you're not given the opportunity to hear it start from cold or to drive it from cold. Some cars, especially diesel cars, can suffer with cold start issues and with high pressure fuel pump issues, where they're very difficult to start when they're cold, but they're not too bad when they're warm. So it can be very misleading. So it's best to, if you're looking at something like that and you don't know what you're looking at, as I said earlier, it's better to take somebody with you. Now I need to take a look at the rest of the car, look at the underneath of it, and for that I need my old clothes. So by the magic of film, and we're back. So old clothes so that you can get down. Come around with me. So you can look at your wheels, look at your brakes from here. You can investigate your tyres all the way across, and then you can start to look at the sills, and you can get under here and get right down and look at the exhaust. But what I'll do now is I'll take you through a little guide in the kind of things to look out for in a car of this kind of age, sort of 10 and 20 years old, and I'll give you a few pointers on the kind of things to expect. So we need a car to demonstrate what to look out for, so we're going to use this car of mine. First thing you want to do is check your paperwork, check your logbook, your V5, whatever it might be called for you, and find the chassis number of the car, and then search around. Usually in the engine bay is where you'll find that. You'll find a plate with the engine code on it and the chassis number, and in this particular car it's here, and then I can check that number to make sure it matches up with the paperwork, to make sure the car's not a stolen one or anything like that. So you can start from there. Check things then like your battery contacts. Okay, you want to make sure that there's not an excessive amount of corrosion, and you want to also check your oil level when you're in here. Now you've got a low and a full mark on this. Every dipstick will have a mark of where they're actually full, and you want to make sure that your oil level is coming up at least in between those, and preferably up to the full mark, not over full as well. If you're looking at a diesel car and it's showing a level that's past the full mark, then it's a sign there might be diesel leaking from the fuel pump into the sump of the engine, into the oil, which is something you really want to walk away from, because that's quite expensive to fix in most cases. And you're also looking for any metallic deposit, which would signal that there's bearings going in the engine, but this is just oil, so that's okay. But if you're then looking at a car that has black oil in it and the seller says it's just been serviced, well then they're not telling you the truth. You're looking for golden brown oil. If it's new, as it gets older, it gets blacker until the point where it gets very black. If it's very runny and black, then that's a sign that it's well past its due date, and it really does need changed. Thin oil is not good for an engine. Then you can check your coolant level. Okay, which is usually at the top of the radiator, or sometimes you have a reservoir tank. You can check that to make sure that A, there's proper coolant antifreeze in it, and B, that it's at the right level, and also then check your brake or your clutch fluid as well, and make sure that that's topped up. So that's the basic checks under the bonnet. Bodywork then, this is why I said before that you want to wear like an old jacket or something, because you might need to lie down. Now, where you're going to be looking is along here on the sills, or the rockers as you might call them if you're in America. So you want to check in there for your brake lines and your fuel lines, and you're just looking for obvious leaks, or you're looking for heavy rust on them. If they're steel, they tend to be steel. If they are, you might need to look at replacing them if they're very, very bad looking. Also, when you're in there, then you can look across and see your exhaust and try to understand what shape it's in. If your exhaust is very rusty, it's going to need replaced too, and exhaust parts can be expensive for some cars, so you want to bear that in mind. That might need replaced as well. Now, when you're looking at your wheels, first thing obviously you want to do is check your tyres. If you can't get your finger right down to the bottom of the tread, that's usually a good sign. You can get a little tool that costs only a few pounds to check the tyre depth as well, but generally you can see, as long as you can see a decent amount of tread on there. In the UK you're looking for at least 1.6 millimeters across the tread of depth. Also, when you're looking at your tyres, you want to check down the sides of them, okay, and you're looking for bulges. You're looking for cracks up along the edges as well. Those are all to be avoided, because that's a sign of a tyre that's damaged, or a tyre that's past its use by date, and you don't want to be driving those tyres. They're not safe. One last thing to do when you're looking around your wheels is to give them a shake like this. Now obviously when the car is down on the ground with its weight on it, you'll not be able to tell much from the wheel, but it is at least worth giving it a little shake. And then also, just before you would buy a car, you want to lift up and check that you have a spare wheel in there, and hopefully the kit as well, and a jack on the brace, so that if you get stuck you'll have the spares to keep yourself moving. You also want to check your exhaust and look for the colour of the smoke that's coming out of it. If it's coming out white, it's a sign that there's possibly coolant getting into the system. And if it's coming out blue, it's a sign that there's oil getting into the system. Neither of those are a good thing. And if the exhaust is coming out particularly black, well, that's generally soot, and it's a sign that the car is running rich. Now that's particularly more noticeable on a diesel car, but the car running rich is bad for the engine in the long term, so that's something that maybe needs to be looked at as well. Now once you've checked the mechanicals out, you want to check your suspension. You'll be listening while you're driving for any noises or anything, but you can also just push down on it like that, and it should settle itself after 1 or 2 bounces. It shouldn't bounce a lot. If you can feel that it's very, very easy to push down, then it's possible that you might have something wrong with the suspension there, either a broken spring or a leaky damper, which both need to be looked at, because that's not safe. And lastly, inside, what you want to check is check all your buttons and instruments, that they all work. You're looking for pieces of trim, you know, to make sure that everything works as it should, because anything that doesn't work you're going to have to replace. And you can see everything there is okay. And you're looking for interior lights, do they all work? Yes, they do. You know, and just looking for general condition, and you'll all know how to look for things that are ripped, you know, whether the seats are good, you know, whether there's stains and things that you need to take care of. But generally, once you get to the stage of interior, if everything else is okay, then you're good to go. So I really hope that that's been useful to you, that you've learned something new, and that hopefully now you understand a little bit better about how to go and buy a car. One last thing to cover is, for anyone in the UK or Northern Ireland, you'll get this is your V5 registration document that comes with a car, and to fill one of these in, just in case you haven't done one before, it's really easy. On this side here, you put in your details, so your name and your address, you put those in, you tick this box for new keeper, and you put the date in here. You don't have to put your driving license in or the mileage, but it does ask for them, but they're not required. And then you get the seller to sign here, and you sign here, and you both date, and that's it. You keep this green section here. With that, you can then tax the car, apply for a new document if this one doesn't come back to you. Then the seller takes this side, posts that away to the DVLA, and then that will come back to you in about 4 weeks with your details on and having transferred ownership. You can also do it online. There's a number down here and also in the front, which is the same number up here as well, and you can use that number to do it online. You go to this website, www.gov.uk, and you click on buy in vehicle, you click tell DVLA you've sold a vehicle, and then when you start that, you use this same number and you put in that on the registration, and then tell DVLA that you've bought the car, and then you put your details in and you press submit, and then that basically does it all online very quickly. You don't need to send this document away at all. You just keep this little bit as before, and that's it. And then within hopefully about 2 weeks, then you get a new document out. It's much quicker, and you can do that any time between 7 AM and 7 PM. But if you're buying a car in the evening, that won't work then, obviously. So that's it. The seller takes this part and posts it away. You keep this part, and that's really it. It's as simple as that. Thanks for watching. We hope that you found this helpful. We'd love to hear your stories or your comments, and make sure to check out our other tutorials and our other videos, and hopefully there'll be something there that'll be helpful as well. And that's it for now. I'm going to get back to my very own project and see what I can do with it.